All right, so hello everybody. Thank you for joining us on our Wednesday Zoom and Learn. And today we are going to be covering a couple things. We're going to be covering the new RON, which is an online notary type of recording, and we're going to be covering Apostille. What are we covering, Annie? Apostille?
It's Apostille Certification.
Certification. So Annie's going to cover the Apostille Certification first, and then I'll touch base on RON and how that works, and in the circumstances in which it can be used, and in what counties it can be used in. So, Annie, do you want me to go ahead and share the information, or do you want to talk first?
You can share the information if you want. I mean, that's fine. You want to put that on there?
Yeah, do you have your phone and computer logged on? Because you have an echo in the background.
Me?
Yep.
Oh, hang on. Let's see. Okay, so I'm off my phone. Is it still echoing?
No, it's better.
Okay. All right, so basically we're going to talk about two of the most common options for the what you need to do if someone's out of the country and they need to get a document notarized. The first one is the Apostille Certification.
Well, and real quick, let me cut you, because why this is important right now, right? With travel bans and everything else, people aren't able, like we have a lot of people from China even that own property in the States. And, you know, a lot of times when they want to buy or sell, they'll fly to the States to do that paperwork and stuff like that. And then they'll fly back. Well, with the travel bans right now, there's no travel between countries like that. So we had to find and come up with alternative ways to be able to still be able to do these transactions in some cases, not all cases, but some cases.
Right. I mean, just so you guys know, in the last 30 days, I've had at least 3 sellers that have been out of the country. One had to leave in an emergency and one was stuck, and then the other one just happened to live out of the country 6 months out of the year. So it can happen for any reason at this time. So basically, first of all, the Apostille Certification, it's a term that's used to describe a document, you know, with the process of having a document certified so that it can be accepted in foreign jurisdiction. That's what that means. Okay, so after the document has been, you know, it has been apostille certified, then it can be used by any country that has signed the Hague Apostille Convention. Now that's probably the most important thing. If they are not part of that convention, that they have not signed that as part of the countries that is willing to be a part of it, then it can't be done. You can't use this particular type of system. So what I did was I just gave you guys, if anybody that wants a copy of this, I gave you the website for the countries that are recognized, you know, that cooperate with that. And then I also gave you a website that gives you more information. So the key is when you need this, when your seller needs this, 2 things. One, you need to find out if they are a country that's involved in the Apostille Convention. And secondly, you need to find out where they need to go to get this done. Because sometimes it's so far away that becomes a problem. That's the one situation that we have seen. Some of them only have 1 or 2 places you can go in the country, and wherever they are, it's just so far from them to get there. Now you now have another problem of getting this taken care of.
And these websites right here, this one right here is where you can go to find out which countries belong to it?
Right. You can log on there.
Okay. I will copy those and put them in the chat for everybody as well.
Okay.
And if anybody watching on Facebook or what have you wants to, well, they can either type it in or they can ask us and we can send them this presentation.
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you the next problem that we sometimes see. So let's say the seller goes, gets it notarized, They go to the place in their country where it needs to get certified, get the Apostille Certification. Everything looks good. They're going to send it back to us now. The notary, if the notary that notarized it did it in their country's language and not in English, so if they speak a different language and they did it in that language, you have one more step you have to do, and that is you have to have it translated to English. So the county recorder will accept it, because they won't accept it unless it's in English. And so the way you do that is you need a declaration and certification of translation. And that is, just so you know, each county is a little different. I mean, they're all supposed to take this same form, which I actually gave you a copy. There's a website on this same thing that we're going to furnish is a copy of the form. And it's called the Declaration Certification of Translation form. So they're all supposed to be in compliance with that, but they sometimes have their own little procedures. So you do need to make sure that we call the county that this is going to be recorded in and find out if they have anything extra to do. But the issue is there are two ways to be able to find a translator that's accepted. You can either get the translation can either be the court translations, which are basically the court systems have created a list of translators that are accepted. So you can go to that list and get one of those translators. And remember, all of this costs money, by the way. So you've got to pay for the additional documentation of recording it. You then have to pay the translator. You also have to pay the county extra for actually doing this declaration and certification of translations. So you want to make sure the sellers are aware of this. It's going to cost them more money for each one of these particular items. So if they can get this notary done in English, they need to make sure they ask, because it saves them money. It's all to save them money and time. So it's two different ways. First of all, there's a list, an official list that the courts have for translators. There's also a different list, an additional list that is the counties. Each county will have a list of translators they accept. Once that is done and they get the translation, then the county will then review it, make sure it's correct, and issue the declaration and certification of translation form. That form is attached to the deed or whatever document that needs to be recorded that was signed out of the county, and now it's complete. So you went from a 2 or 3 page document to most likely at least a 5 to 7 page document.
Okay.
So that's one way to do it. Tommy, can you go down a little bit?
Yep.
Just so you know, I know that China and Canada are not part of that Apostille Convention, so they did not agree to it. So if you are dealing with someone that is in that particular country, you have the next option you have is to have them go to the American embassy or consulate. Now, every country has an American embassy, and then the consulates are like, they're like little offsets, little offices throughout the country, but you can also have it done there. You have to be very careful though. You need to call them or contact them to make sure they do this. Sometimes a consulate is created to do something in specific. So it's like, they're like an offset of the embassy, but they only do 1 or 2 things. And so they may not actually do the notary part that you need. So you have to contact them, make sure that they in fact can meet the seller and get that taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the easiest way. The hardest thing about it is just finding it. So what I did was I gave everybody a website that shows you where all of the American embassies and consulates are in the other countries. If you click on that, you are going to find, you just put what country you need to go to, and it'll show you the embassy and where the consulates are. So that makes that real easy. And then you just find out which is best for the seller. So that was the easy one. There are more than 3 options, by the way. So I gave you the list of where you go to actually look up the California Code section that gives you all of the options. I think there's like, I want to say 8 total.
Mm-hmm.
So it does give you these 3 just happen to be the only ones I've seen. I've never seen anybody use the other ones actually in 40 some years.
You
so
want to
just
talk
so
to
you
the
know.
third option there?
The third option is basically where you have it notarized and then you go before a judge and have it court approved, basically. And obviously you need an attorney because you need to get a court date and so on. And
And
that
that
can be
one
done
takes
here.
even longer.
Yes, of course. Well, the court date alone is what takes so long. It probably takes you 60 days just to get a date.
Right. And we'll add another fourth option just in here is United States military bases.
Yes, if they're in the military.
So if you are in the military, any U.S. military base does have a notary on base. It's usually an officer that has a notary license, and we've utilized bases quite frequently to do that. I've actually even had a civilian in, I want to say it was Germany, be able to get access to the base and get a notary done. So you don't necessarily have to be just military, but you need to be able to get access to the base, and a lot of times that's going to be difficult. So,
well, and the nice thing about that is,
able to.
I'm sorry. The nice thing about that is, I don't know if anybody knows, but the counties have to accept whatever the notary is from a military notary. So it doesn't, like, you know how we are always trying to get these approved? I found out from San Diego County and also Riverside County, they pretty much have to accept any document that's notarized by the military. Even if they don't particularly care for it, they're supposed to accept it. So they have to. So you don't usually have any problems with a military document.
Should we open up the questions in regards to Apostille certification?
Yes. Anybody have any questions?
Let's
or even, you know, any questions at all.
Yeah, before we
Hi,
jump
Marie.
into Ron, let's answer any questions that they may have in regards to what you just presented.
Oh, just unmute them so they can talk.
They can unmute themselves. Let me see.
Oh, all right. Marie, you guys have any questions? Anybody? No?
No,
Everybody's
not now.
unmuted.
And
Cool.
based on your 3 transactions that you've completed, and I know we're the one in Hong Kong, some of them are asking for the cost associated with it. Is there a way to assign a percentage of the cost that may be associated with like the?
There's
You
not.
want to play a new
Because
slide again? Okay.
the problem with that is that they actually have every particular like embassy or consulate has their own, every country has their own pricing. So it really depends on that one. I will tell you the 3 that I particularly, I was involved in. One of them was about 120. The other one was about 400 and something to get the whole thing. And then the other one was, I don't think I actually saw a bill on that one because they paid for it themselves, but it was, I think she said they were really pleased with it. So I'm assuming if they were pleased with it, because she had said that it was probably going to be about 250, it must have been at least around 200, you know, less than that. Because the agent had told them it was probably going to be about $250. And it came in lower. So I think it just depends on where they have to get it done. And also keep in mind, as long as you could get the notary to do it in English, which, as you know, some places English is their language anyway, but as long as they make sure that whoever is notarizing it uses the document that's an English document and not their own language, it's going to save you a lot of money. I've seen the translators, by the way, cost $200 to $1,000 depending on the length of the document they're translating.
Wow. Okay. So, and then, you know, as a follow-on question, how do we get, or the buyer, how will they get the original documents back to you?
We have them FedEx them. Every place is FedEx them. We don't use any other courier service. We've never had any problems, except it doesn't, you know, at one point it took 4 days, even the FedEx, there's no overnight. It's usually about a 2-day process. And at one time, the one time it took 4. Where they were, there was a remote area, and so it was 4 days.
Okay, so FedEx only.
That's the only way FedEx only. We've not used anyone else. We don't even want to take a chance. We've had no problems with the FedEx, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
And just to show the website that you would go to see where it is. This is the link that was on the presentation that takes you in. And it gives you
so
in
much
alphabetical
information.
order the countries that are part of the Hague Convention. So you can go through this list when you click on the link or go to the link, and it will, give you some insight of which countries are part of it, right?
Right.
So it makes it pretty easy there.
Right, and then you can actually go into the country and find out where, where the closest, from your particular client, where the closest embassy or consulate is.
Right. And then if you guys have any questions further than that, you can always reach out to Annie.
Give me a call.
And Annie can help you. Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and put Annie's phone number in here. Right there in the bottom left-hand corner of her picture. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So next, let's jump into talking about RON. RON is something fairly new. We've been working on this for quite some time. We didn't think that it would see us before end of 21, going into 22. But with COVID-19 hitting us, we came upon it pretty quick. So RON has been authorized, and I'm going to pull up a flyer here and share it with you that I have. And I can share this with anybody that may want this flyer as well. But let me see here. Okay. All right. So RON is short for Remote Online Notarization. And it's a way of notarizing documents virtually without having to be there in person. And there are only certain states that have accepted RON, and we're going to talk to which counties in our area have accepted it and the process in which takes place during a RON transaction. So general requirements, first and foremost, is the lender must approve RON transactions first. Okay, so it has to be listed in their lender instructions that they accept RON. Okay, the buyer seller must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. RON transactions must be approved by all parties, the buyer, seller, and lender, etc. And it must also include, again, RON is accepted in the lender's escrow or in the lender's lender instructions. Okay. The other thing that's a little different is RON will be done by a state that currently allows RON notaries. At this point, any California transactions must be done by an out-of-state RON notary. So for those transactions that are approved for that a California transaction would be done by one of the following states listed here: Nevada, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Washington. Okay. And as far as the counties in which RON is accepted in right now for our counties in California or Southern California here, it's almost all of them in Southern California, right? Los Angeles, San Diego, Orange County, Ventura, Riverside County, San Bernardino, and Santa Barbara. Okay, so if your county is not listed in this list, you could reach out to me and I can check it for you. This list gets updated ongoing, and counties will, be added to this list as they accept it. But as of right now, today, these are the 8 or so counties that accept it. Okay. So RON must take place on an approved vendor system as well. So an approved RON notary would have access to one of these systems. So we have DocVerify, Nexus, Notary Cam, Notarized, Pavaso, Signix, and Simply Secure Sign. So you see on there, DocuSign is not one of them. but a certified RON notary would have access to one of these systems, okay? Special circumstances. So we put this in there. So it's unclear whether RON can be notarized by a U.S. citizen while in another country. If this situation arises, we will look at it one-on-one, and we'll have to make some phone calls to see. They are in the process of trying to determine if a U.S. citizen that's temporarily out of the country can still qualify and do RON, and things are changing on a daily basis. So if we experience that, we'll look at it on a one-on-one, okay? Now, one requirement for that is that the country needs to be a part of the Hague Convention. So we talked about that with the other system with the Apostille Convention, right, or certification. It's very similar. So if somebody is in one of those countries that belong to the Hague Convention, there may be certain circumstances where that can be possible, okay? So this would then streamline some of that those other options that Annie gave, right? So this could potentially be another possibility of doing a notary remotely. The goal, obviously, you see we're moving in the right direction. We're moving into the direction of doing, paperless almost everything. We have some lenders out there that are allowing loan docs even to be signed and stuff remotely. So I think as we get further and further into using some of these newer systems and they're tested and tried, and we see that it can be monitored and it's secure, and we don't have a whole lot of, fraudulent stuff that is trying to take place, I think we'll see a little bit more and more of this, right? But this could definitely save a lot of time and a lot of headache in a lot of cases. So that is RON in a nutshell. Again, remote online notarization. If anybody would like this flyer, by all means, just reach out to me. My information is down here on the bottom, or you can find me on Facebook as well. I will I will put my information in the bottom corner of my name as well. You can.
And just so in case anybody has any questions, I'm a notary, and so is Lisa, my partner. We're both notaries. We have been checking with California, with our association, our notary association, and just checking to see, how they're doing as far as bringing this forward, because they have to also get involved and make it so that the notaries can do this. And I see that there's a lot of action. They have, in the last, I want to say at least 2-3 weeks, we've seen a lot of action where they are trying to get this implemented in California. They are trying to move forward.
Correct. Yeah. Right now, California is not a state that has RON notary. However, we can accept a RON notary, right? It just has to be done by a state that is already certified to do it.
Right. Because we need the notary association, the Secretary of State basically to approve that for all the notaries to even be able to get that. So, but they are working on it.
Correct. All right, so we'll open it up to any questions on RON, Remote Online Notarization. I think it's pretty cut, dry, self-explanatory. I think the two biggest takeaways on it for it to be possible is, first and foremost, the lender must approve it, right? So in advance, they have to say, yes, we'll accept RON, and they have to put that into their lender instructions. That's number one. The second is we have to make sure that all parties agree to it, right? And that's number two. And then the third is setting up the process then to have it done with an out-of-state RON notary. But as long as those first two things take place and the buyer, seller, lender, all parties agree to it, then it can be done, okay? And they are currently have currently done them in our county. So we at least know that, you know, we're good to go when it pertains to that. All right. Any questions?
Anybody
Daryl,
have any
Marie,
escrow
Esther?
questions or title?
What's that?
I was just asking if anyone had any other escrow or title questions that they were working on right now. Did they have any questions for us?
Yeah, we can open up to any type of questions as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have a trust, and I put the house, my house, in the name of the trust, but I did it myself. And I remember Annie saying something about it had to be certified or something like that.
No, that's if I need a copy of a death certificate or something like that. But if you have a trust, like you did a deed, I'm assuming you did a quitclaim deed, right?
I don't remember how I did it, but I know I went to the Hall of Records and I put it, the house is in the name of the trust.
Okay, so you probably did a quitclaim deed. The best thing to do, let's make sure the key is we need to make sure that you put like Marie Cruz, trustee of the trust. So many times people will just deed it to their trust, and that is not a valid trust. That's not a valid document. So we need to fix it to make sure that you're shown as the trustee for that trust. So just give me that address and I'll check it out for you.
Okay, I'll do that.
That's easy. Yeah, we can fix it. No problem.
Okay, good.
All right.
As far as other stuff, I mean, an uninsured deed recorded into the trust name, we would need an affidavit and that's it, you know, outside of that.
Okay.
And that's easy because it's just you that would be signing the affidavit. It's not like it's you know, some other person.
Now I have a rental down the street and I wanted to put that in the name of the trust.
Let's just make sure it goes to you as the trustee of the trust. I'll help you so we can do that right.
Okay.
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 That and Marie, make sure that you update your trust as well.
Oh, okay.
Right. So you have your what do they call it? Your A list, your list A, or whatever. Different trusts call it different things, but there's a list where it lists all of your property possession, and you want to make sure that it's added into the trust as well.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you're like us, we actually have a place so that we don't have to keep going back to the attorney. You might have a place in the trust where you can add real estate. You just write it in. They left it open, so it says additional real estate purchased, and then you just keep adding it in, and then of course you can actually delete it too, sold on this date and so on.
Oh, okay.
So ours was set up to do that, so we didn't have to call the attorney every time.
Sounds good. I'll check into it.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
For LLCs and corporations, one member managed LLC, what documents do you need to successfully record a transfer of property? And I'm sorry.
We need the articles of incorporation.
Okay.
And they each have those. And then we also need, if it's an LLC, I'm going to need the operating agreement. Okay. But if it's a corporation, then what I need is a copy of their bylaws. And then we also need what's called a corporate resolution. And Daryl, if you need a sample of that corporate resolution, I have a couple to choose from.
Okay. Yeah, I think in that package that you and Tommy sent over before, we had those in there, but you know, with our favorite person, you know, it's like he's trying to get all that documentation out. So we've been going through.
No problem.
You know.
No problem. I'll resend that over.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, ma'am.
No problem.
I have a question. Regarding the COVID-19 addendums that are out,
have you had anyone had to cancel escrow because of that and have any problems getting their deposits back?
No, I've had 3 files canceled due to the COVID-19 and there was no problems.
Okay. If they do challenge it, say if a seller challenged it, will that take a while?
It would be like any other cancellation, unfortunately. So if the seller is challenging it, you guys might have to go to small claims court, depending on the deposit amount.
And I would also recommend that you know, you have quite a few COVID-19 document disclosures in your car forms that have been put out there. One of them does stipulate, for any reason, if anything that COVID-19 causes, it's grounds for, you know, it's grounds for them to be able to back out of the transaction. And I would go in and read those. I think if you just, I want to say if you search COVID disclosure, you'll probably find it. But
yeah, isn't that the PED one that we were talking about last week?
No,
That's something different.
The PED one is all about, you know, protecting yourself while in and out of house and also in the facilities. But there is a coronavirus disclosure that states, for any reason, if somebody loses their job, if somebody gets sick, I mean, anything that's caused related to COVID, that they're able to back out at any time. So,
yes, I've seen those. I'm just wondering, some of the sellers aren't signing them. So if they don't sign it,
recommendation would be send an email to Car Legal and ask the question, because you know, my understanding when I read through it all was that that covered somebody for that regardless. I mean, if they didn't want to sell it or not, but I mean, you can look into it. I would definitely send the email to legal and ask them.
Yeah, definitely.
okay, yeah, I'll need to check into that because that may be coming up.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, Annie and I also go live tomorrow with Weekly Valley Pitch at 4 o'clock. Tomorrow, Thursday at 4 o'clock. Every Thursday at 4 o'clock via Zoom. And if you have any properties to pitch, you can definitely send those into, well, you can email them into weeklyvalleypitch@gmail.com. Again, that's weeklyvalleypitch@gmail.com. And that will then, you can just give the property information or the MLS, and somebody will get that put into the presentation for you to be able to pitch it. As well, you could reach out to us for information on the Zoom links, or you can just go and find it at Weekly Valley Pitch Facebook page.
Tell them what we're talking about next week, too.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Next week, we're going to have Brenda Hale on to discuss some 1031 alternatives. So she has a program that will allow people to, and Brenda, you can correct me if I'm wrong after this, allow people to defer their capital gains for up to 30 years. And this program is an alternative to a 1031 exchange without the timelines that 1031 exchange come with. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
And they have the option of cashing out, taking 93.3% of the net proceeds.
So that's going to be a big one that you're not going to want to miss. I know a lot of people want information on 1031 exchange, but this program here allows you a lot of stuff a 1031 exchange does not. One, it allows you to defer for 30 years, allows you to take money out without being penalized on it. And it doesn't come with the stringent timelines that a 1031 exchange comes with, where you have to locate a property within a certain time, be in contract within a certain time, close within a certain time. This gives you a little bit more lenient leeway, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that one next week. That one's
yeah, I'm very excited about that one.
Oh, thanks for letting me present it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
So, all right, guys. Well, any other questions? If not, we will wrap it up, and we will look forward to seeing you all next week, Wednesday at 12:30 for the 1031 alternative Zoom and Learn.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you all soon. Bye.